best experience. Finally, nurturing cybersecurity awareness, continuous engagement, and incubating cybersecurity culture to ensure secure digital socio-economic system. Finally, please allow me to take the opportunity to express my sincere thanks to the organizers and particularly the honorable keynote speakers, His Excellency Solomon Soka, Director of ECySA, and Professor Dean. I would like also to express my gratitude to the conference organizers, panel moderators, especially Professor Solomon and Jay, Ahmed Jamal, panelists, and above all, audiences who dedicated your precious time to share our concerns and visions. Now, if
we will introduce Mr. Solomon when he comes. As you would know, schedules change, so we will try to keep it fluid. I will mention that and invite you again, Dr. Branu, when Mr. Solomon Soka appears. I don't see him on the list, but we will do that in due time.
So thank you very much. This is the first effort. We'll also organize an international, a blended conference early 2023. Join us to this effort, and hopefully this conference will lay down the cornerstone for the future international continental collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Branu. If I may take this opportunity to also announce the first engagement with industry of this association in collaboration with Dr. Richard Dean, who's going to be a keynote speaker for us later, have organized together. Dr. Dean has graciously agreed to conduct
security from industry, academia, as well as the civic services. We'll try to make this interactive. So the format would be, we're just going to give the panelists a few minutes to talk about their area of expertise and their thoughts. By the end, we're going to have a Q&A open for the audience. So be prepared to ask questions. For now, I want to go and call out the panelists, and if you are, say, I'm present, and we'll go from there. Okay, so first will be, I'm going to call out to Mr. Yidnekacho Worko. Are you present? Mr. Worko, are you present? Okay, we'll come back to Mr. Worko. Next, I have Mr. Abdullahi Abdulbasit Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed, are you present? If you do, please acknowledge by unmuting. We have over 100 people almost. It's hard to see for me. Okay, one more time, Mr. Abdulbasit Ahmed. Okay, going to panel number going for panel number 3, Dr. Henok Mulugeta. Can everyone, Professor Solomon, can you hear me?
Yes, I don't see Dr. Henok either.
Okay. Dr. Henok Mulugeta is not here. So we're going to go to Professor Jamal Abouaji. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. Calling for Professor Jamal Abouaji. Okay. So I'm assuming that they are expecting to start 3:30, which is our time of 7:30. So they might be lagging behind. Next calling for Professor D.P. Sharma.
So I would let you know and notify you as they come. I believe Mr. Tedros Teddy Gudai is here. Maybe you can start with that, and I will notify you as the other guests arrive.
Okay. Teddy, are you present?
Yes, I'm present. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Guda. So, and we'd like to welcome you as a panelist. As Professor Solomon says, we are kicking off early the actual panel discussion until our guest speaker, Mr. Soka, arrives. So please go ahead and give us a background of your bio in a couple of minutes and what interests in cybersecurity. Floor is yours.
I guess for me, is that what you said? All right. Okay. Hey guys, my name is Tedros Gudai, Teddy Gudai. Currently living in Helsinki Finland, Helsinki for the last 22 years. Studied here both my bachelor and master's degree here in business information management. I'm also a certified information system auditor. So my main subject is, today I'm representing the Ethiopian Information System Audit Association. So we are working with the Ethiopia Cybersecurity Association, so that we collaborate in many ways, working with government also inside. So today I'm looking forward to discuss different kinds of cybersecurity issues and information system audit related issues. That's in short. Thank you. You are in mute.
Thank you, Mr. Guri. I appreciate that. So I heard that Dr. Sharma is here. Dr. Sharma, can you hear me? Professor Sharma, can you hear me? Okay. So we'll wait with Professor Sharma. So as the keynote speaker comes in, I think I was calling earlier. I want to give some little background by myself. So I'm Ahmed Jamal. I go by J Jamal. I'm a cybersecurity professional. Also work as a researcher at Morgan State University in blockchain for IT. And I think I had the honor of being one of the students of Professor Dr. Dean here, Professor Dean. I also work with Dr. Wendung, who's here, and others, and Professor Salamon. So I'm excited about this initiative of Ethiopian Cybersecurity Association. I think we have kicked off this back in January when we all was back home as part of the Great Ethiopian Homecoming. So we had set this agenda that we want to collaborate across the globe. I think that's happening now. And in the last 6 months, we were able to put this webinar and actively working behind the scene, a lot of initiatives, as Dr. Burhan mentioned, I don't want to repeat. We have a student chapters going across Ethiopia. Also, we creating that public-private academy partnership. As one exhibit would be the Chesapeake Cybersecurity Training Center that Dr. Dean mentioned earlier. That's going to be doing some outreach in Ethiopia and in Africa at large. Also in here, we are collaborating across other non-profits and enterprise to bring that value to Ethiopia and Africa at large. So I'm pleased to be part of this initiatives. It's exciting, it's a lot of work. And I think what the ask would be is, I know Dr. Burhan is going to say this later on, is for everyone to participate. I think there is a play for everyone. I think it's like takes a village, as the saying going. So we're happy to be here. We're going to have a great session here. We have two panels, panel 1, panel 2. as we kick on, please stay with us and please stay active at the end for Q&A. Let's see if any of our panel are here. Dr. Sharma, are you there? Okay, again, if you are a panelist on panel 1, please come forward. I would have call up again Dr. Worko.
So I don't see the other panelists yet, but I don't want you guys to feel lonely. So if I may call on Dr. Wandimu, maybe you can join impromptu and be able to comment about your things about challenges in general. And I'd also like to invite Dr. Brhanu. Maybe we'll have those two join you, Jay, as you guys discuss, and I will inform you as others show up.
Thank you, Professor Sandavinas. Dr. Wandimu, you want to continue and say a couple of words?
Yeah, so I could say some. I am part of the Chesapeake Cybersecurity Institute, where Dr. Richard Dean, basically my professor during my PhD program, is the director of it. So currently we are collaborating, as is, Professor Solomon mentioned earlier, and Dr. Dean, with Dr. Astatke to have an outreach in Ethiopia, a training that we are planning to provide as a pilot program and see how things go forward. And also we have some initiative in other African countries such as Nigeria and Ghana. So we plan to expand that initiative. Dr. Dean has a very good presentation that I suggest you should follow. The expertise that he has from the NSA and in coordinating and directing, or starting the initiative for Morgan State University to be a certified technically Center of Academic Excellence for Cyber Defense Education program that is overlooked or designed by the National Security Agency and the Department of Homeland Security. He will go in detail with that, but with that expertise, I hope we can contribute something into the cyber community in Ethiopia. So that's what I have.
Jay, Professor Sharma has arrived when you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wandimu. I appreciate it for sharing your insight. Also welcome Dr. Sharma, Professor Sharma. Floor is yours. So we are kicking off. I don't know you heard. We're gonna kick off the first panel early on, and until we wait for our keynote speaker to arrive. So please introduce yourself and as well as tell us a couple of things what cybersecurity interests you. Floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Professor Sharma here from India. Recently, I'm on vacation, and but today I'm connected with you all, eminent individuals and the scholars working in the field of cybersecurity, especially Dr. Brhanu and Mr. Dr. Jay Jamal, and other scholars, and personality working in the field of cybersecurity. I am actually associated with the Armament University, but I am serving with some other universities as well as a voluntary and some sort of support services to the PhD programs. And we have one PhD program in computer science, computing, and IT disciplines. Especially, we have one specialization in cybersecurity as well as a sub specialization. Since long time, I'm associated with the computing discipline around more than 26 years. But as far as my specialization and contribution to the discipline is concerned, I have coined and associated with several research related to the cybersecurity and cloud computing domain especially. And I know the consequences which are increasing and in the cybersecurity domain, but when we connect these cybersecurity issues with the internet and its governance, my contribution and my focus is to align those two disciplines. Since I am one of the stakeholder of the Internet Governance Forum of United Nations, IGF, Internet Governance Forum, which is drafting the law and the legislations and the control models, surveillance models for the cybersecurity, as well as the governance. So I'm associated with the Ethiopia, I'm associated with India, some other country. So I would be very happy to have a discussion with you all stakeholders. And I would be happy because I could not see the background, introduction and what I have to speak so far. That's why I'm so sorry that whether I am giving my words in the correct direction or not. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I am now online. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. So no apology needed. I know we kicked off earlier. Your time slot will stand 10 minutes, but we want to bring on panelists as we prepare for the main kickoff. So thank you. I think do we have any other panelists? Professor Solomon joined?
Oh, I think you should just go with Teddy, Professor Sharma, and Dr. Wendumu for now, and I'll inform you as we get more.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So I'm going to come back to Teddy, Mr. Guda. So can you tell us, I know you are from the area that are most advanced in the world, I would say, in the IT space, in the Scandinavian space, we are from Finland. Would you tell us what are the landscape around there in cybersecurity?
Oh, where can I start? Well, Finland is known as mainly in cybersecurity, as you know. So we have many different kinds of implementation or projects so far we have done through my 80 years career. So what I would like to share with you is that since, as you know, Finland is one of the leading cybersecurity country, they are really concerned and then work everything within the mind. They are always thinking about the end users. So how they are the end user will have, what kind of experience will have the end user. So from that point of view, they really always create any solution of cybersecurity solution. So one thing that I would like to mention in terms of how they are dealing with the cybersecurity. In addition to that, well, cybersecurity have different kinds of issues, as you can imagine. But before dealing with going through in that situation, what I would like to mention also, let's say the cooperation work between and among different stakeholders is a key here also, and the trust, how they are dealing with different kinds of stakeholders and government officers. Even the peoples are so committed to deal with government rule, so that everybody is aligned with the policies and then the procedures, of course, in the working area also. So I have a bad echo. I don't know from where it comes. Literally, I wish if all countries have good, take a good benchmark from Finland, so that they can work really consistent cybersecurity solutions. That's what my feeling, especially when I was in Ethiopia back in a couple of weeks ago. I see a lot of things going on there, building different kinds of solutions, applications, but cybersecurity is behind, way behind the status where it should be. I feel like that, cybersecurity in Ethiopia, I don't know, I can't say it from my behalf about the Africa, but in Ethiopia, I can see that cybersecurity is a little bit behind the status where it should be, and I'm so worried that the Ethiopia cyber won't be the same as Addis Ababa traffic situation. That's why my fear always. So this is something that I would like to share at the moment. So we'll go through detailed situation also in the later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guri. I appreciate it. We'll come back to you. I mean, you brought up a couple of good points as well as your trip back home. It would be nice to more. So moving to Professor Sharma. So I know you are an educator, also you've been in the industry for years. I just want to piggyback what Dr. Guri, Mr. Guri said, that in Scandinavia or in Western Europe, end user is centric as well as stakeholders. What is that from the academic perspective, especially in University of Arbaminj, when you guys are teaching cybersecurity around that? Floor is yours, Professor Sharma.
Would you please repeat? I could not hear clearly.
Okay, I was just speaking from what Mr. Guri was mentioning, from where he says that the two important things that he picked are user-centric and stakeholders. These are the two key points that are making the cybersecurity fabric. I was trying to see what are that translate to your work as educator in University of Arbaminj. Do you guys teach that? Do you guys discuss around that? And what's the trajectory in there?
Actually, as far as the cybersecurity and computer systems or network security is concerned, this is focusing on different tiers. As far as my observation and the knowledge in this particular discipline is concerned. For example, we are talking about the a different type of attacks, maybe ransomware, IoT attacks, and the cloud attacks, phishing attacks, blockchain, and cyber cryptocurrency attacks, software vulnerability, machine learning, and attacks, insiders, outsiders, several things. But when we just confine all these things, issues and concerns to the cybersecurity domain, and especially for the African continent countries. Normally, Africa, for example, if I talk about the Ethiopia, still we didn't open the internet banking fully in terms of e-commerce, in terms of e-business, in terms of financial transactions for the public. And that is good, part, because when financial affairs are concerned, then definitely attacks increases. So Ethiopia is safe. But as far as the international globalization is concerned, when it will come into existence, we should have the preparation, strong preparation. We should have strong models, defense mechanisms. And our scholar who are studying in Arbaminj University, they are trying to, one scholar is trying to develop some, model which can provide a certain defense mechanism, not fully, but a support system, that how the country can protect its, computing and communication systems inside from the outside attacks. And as far as, the two domains are there. One is the experts concerns, and another one is common man. general public. General public, first support that can be given to the general public is the awareness. Second support is basic training. Third support is follow-up. And fourth support is strong defense mechanism at the countryside. If, for example, if I'm giving you a simple example, I have an account, cloud account. Cloud service provider is saying, CSP is saying that we are safe. You cannot compromise the security at our server level. But ultimately, traffic will go through my device. If my device is not having the licensed version of softwares, it is having some backdoors, it is having some malware, spywares, or the firewall is not properly working, we don't have any antivirus, then the traffic, the request will go to my cloud account, isn't it? Then the cloud server, isn't it, understanding that request is coming from the legitimate device, legitimate location, legitimate IP address, then it will open the doors to access the data or some information. And once the hacker or cracker has cracked our machine and going to our cloud account, then who is responsible? We are making responsible to the CSPs, but actually we are responsible, because security at the server level, security at the transmission level, security at the client level, and security different level. So, any country, including Ethiopia or India or any European or American country, America, they cannot just like provide the full security or ensure the judicial security until and unless they are public, the common man. And the different stakeholders at different level will not be responsible and sensible. So sensibility, responsibility, accountability, these are certain things which are required to be taken into consideration in internet governance form models as well. But these models will not enforce only at the internet governance format. They are required to be deployed and enforced at the countryside level. And Arvamint University is lucky enough that, Dr. Berhanu Behano is also, Behana is the panel, supervisor in our university, who invited me because I was a little busy and because of my other affairs. But today I am very happy to be the part of this. So we can have good discussion, but from my point of view, I think following to Dr. Taddy, isn't it? And I am just giving my inputs in this direction, because still I am just trying to understand the background on which particular topic, specifically in this panel, we are going to discuss some sort of issues of the local concerns and the international. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Professor Sharma. That's so insightful. We do appreciate it, and glad to hear that University of Arvamint has some initiative around stakeholders, expertise in the public area as well. So I think it's right now, we are like 2 minutes shy of the actual official start time. So I'm going to go ahead and start the official panel discussions. And so for this panel discussion,
sorry.
okay. So I think Professor Solomon will let us know as more panelists come in. But the theme of the first panel is a cybersecurity challenge in Africa and Ethiopia. So in that topic, we're going to touch what the challenges are currently in Africa. Ethiopia is I know it's a broad topic. We can have all this discussion, but we're going to touch there. What are the private sectors? Are they well informed around cybersecurity? Do we think there is enough cybersecurity knowledge? What are the sets of area do you think we need to more security challenges? For example, we have e-commerce, banking, I think Professor Sharma tell. So those are the areas we're going to discuss. So we're going to start now, and I'm going to go back to Mr. Goudet, and I was going to ask them, in a couple of minutes, what do you think are the critical cybersecurity challenges in Africa and Ethiopia specifically?
Well, as Professor Sharma said, since we are not exposed to internet much, we didn't know that, how much cybersecurity deficiencies we have right now. That's one big things that we have to raise in this discussion, because the challenge, in my point of view, in Africa, perhaps in Ethiopia, people are not aware about cybersecurity. They don't have that much deep knowledge about the cybersecurity. When you go somewhere, for instance, just simple example, you want to need print any file. They ask you to send your file through Telegram. You can imagine what kind of critical information you have, and then they ask you to send it by Telegram. So that much people are not informed about what's the really cybersecurity issue. The second thing which I really aware of that also, usually there is a lot of initiative in terms of developing e-services from the government point of view, or any private company, also software companies. They build different kinds of software, but the thing that they are not that much focused even where they build their codes, what kind of CI/CD pipeline they have, how well secured, how the coders are really concerned on code security. There is no such kind of things, I think, in my point of view. So that is one thing that the place where we really would like to focus on. The third thing also, which I would like to mention also, the management. The management, they have not that much deep knowledge about what are the impacts of the cybersecurity problems. Just let me give you some kind of information which I been in this a couple of weeks ago. I see one Toyota Hilux model 2000 model, and then it just driven about 850 kilometers, 850,000 kilometers. So it just costs 1.2 million Ethiopian birr. Imagine that car is almost dead. So for that, the value of that car is so huge. And then when you just think about, ask some company, how much is the asset of their company? It's about millions of billions even, but they don't have, cybersecurity budget, nothing, zero. So how can you build cybersecurity resilience if you don't have a budget? So the management has to do on that. So these three things I would like to really want to raise the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gude. I think you have raised three key points, as you said. I mean, especially the public awareness of cybersecurity. I have also experienced people are using social medias as well, sending some personal information that can be compromised. Also, I think the management awareness and leadership awareness is the key, as you said. No budget, So this is great points, and we'll keep tagging on that. Thanks for sharing. So in the same question, Professor Sharma, can you take a couple of minutes to discuss what do you think are the critical cybersecurity challenges in Africa and specifically in Ethiopia?
And not for you, Jay.
Jay.
We have one of your panelists have arrived, Mr. Abdulaziz Ahmed. So whenever you're ready, please feel free.
All right, thank you, Professor Solomon. We'll go next. Please proceed, Professor Sharma.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, as far as my own observation is concerned during my stay in Ethiopia and other countries of Africa, as Mr. Teddy mentioned, and focused on, try to put the focus on the different aspects of cybersecurity, the negative aspects and the the positive aspects. But we have a big gun, we have a big bomb, we have a big weapon, we have a big fireball. but unless it is not effectively implemented, isn't it? And the people are not fully harnessing the power of those defense systems in cybersecurity, then no use of having such kind of the defense systems. And defense systems are not only enough, but the support and services provided by the operators and the controllers, people, installers and designers, configurers, isn't it? And in addition to it, for example, I have seen several universities are having firewall. If you are just searching something good thing, they are blocking, but something bad thing you are searching, they are not blocking. So how to block it? How to filter it? How to smart configuration, smartly configure the different devices in the systems? That is also most important thing. And as far as the, for example, in Ethiopia, I'm having a device, and many people are trying to send me some links. And even sometimes I send a link to my friend, which I got from some other source. My friend is thinking that this is sent by a professor, so ultimately it will be a reliable, but I received it and as as it is forward, so that you can analyze it and let me know that it is genuine or is having some sort of phishing or missing code. In this particular concern, even the experts sometimes are cheated by the people who are the teachers in the cyber world. So the training, awareness, update, isn't it? Update, frequently update are required. For example, in our laboratories in Arbaminch University, especially, we have machine learning. So what are the role of machine learning? What kind of machine learning, how and what kind of ways the machine learning can help the cybersecurity and defense and the defense, its defense mechanisms. Similarly, we have the software engineering. What are the vulnerabilities, weaknesses, or the faults, isn't it? Or the defects and deficiencies should be overcome or should be avoided during the design process of the software. Then we have to provide the support to the software level, similarly network level, similarly the individual machine level. So cybersecurity is not only a single dimensional discipline or single discipline. It is emerging and it is integrating several disciplines. So until and unless all disciplinary, cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary people will not sit together to analyze the future threats, to diagnose the future threat, to synthesize the future threats, and will not make the proper, concrete, and effective roadmap, we will not be successful. Even if we designed a concrete roadmap, but if its implementation is poor, then ultimately the effect will not be visible on the ground. So we have, at least from my observation, from my opinion, we have to have at the 4 level defense mechanisms. One is technology level, another one is governance level. The government will not allow the system to be implemented inside the country or the state side, then we cannot do. So technology level, government level, legal level, isn't it? Legal level, legal, or we can say legal and operational level, and then finally the user level. Any tier if weak, nothing will happen, or the desired goals will not be achieved. So in Ethiopia, as I mentioned earlier, exponentially, as far as I see, attacks are increasing. Why attacks are increasing? Because number of users are increasing and internet speed is increasing. When the number of users will increase, isn't it, social media will increase, different other systems will increase. The exponential growth will be also visible in the attack sectors. But it is the right time to provide the defense mechanism and provide the basic support. For example, why not government will initiate, or international the agency, Ethiopian agency, and other African continent countries should not initiate their own 2 type of at least application. One is awareness application. Everybody should compulsorily restricted to download this app, go to the training, then there should be assessment of the individual user that he has got the proficiency in this particular access mechanism or not. Until that, he should not give the chance or the permission to access the unknown links. For example, I am given the facility to access the limited links. But if I am trained and my proficiency certificate is attached to my MAC address or my internet, on a mobile number on which I am getting the internet access, isn't it? Then definitely I should be given the chance to access the different website. So these kind of things are required to be done, as far as my observation is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. This is very insightful. I think you have touched very critical points. I think one stand out for me is that attacks are increasing. Why? Because now things are connected, usability is high. We are getting the cusp of now digital transformation in Ethiopia. The more you connect, the more you're going to be exposed. So that is why I think one of the reasons we have this organization and having this kind of platform will kind of propel to what you are arguing or asking the government to do so is that can we have an awareness application that can go a long way. So definitely the bigger things you mentioned, like the frameworks are also essential, the technology, the governance, the legal and usability. I can attest that even here in the Western side of the world, governance and legal are still in a challenging arena. But definitely, thanks for sharing this. So now,
Jay, if I may, in addition to Mr. Abdul Basit, you have Professor Jamal who's also arrived, and you have about 15 minutes left.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Professor, for keeping me in the loop for the onboarding of our panelists. So we're gonna, as Professor said, we're gonna invite the two of our panelists. We have Mr. Abdul Basit Ahmed. He's from ECySA cybersecurity specialist. Also, we have Professor Jamal Abuwaji. He's an educator and lecturer at the Deccan University of Australia. So first, I will give the floor to Mr. Ahmed. Please, the floor is yours. Give a couple of minutes of your bio and what you think the challenges in cybersecurity challenges in Africa and specifically in Ethiopia. Please proceed.
Oh.
Mr. Ahmed, the floor is yours. Mr. Abdul Basit Ahmed, if you are speaking, you're on mute, please unmute. Okay, he might not be ready, so we'll come to Mr. Ahmed back. So Mr. Jamal Abuwaji, are you there? Professor?
He just unmuted. Mr. Abdul Basit just unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Mr. Ahmed, please proceed. I don't know if you heard me.
Please use first name, Jay. It's unusual to use last name. Please use first name, Abdul Basit.
Okay, we'll use first name going forward. So Abdul Basit, welcome to the panel. I don't know if you heard me. We will like to hear your bio in a couple of minutes and what you think is the challenge, cybersecurity challenge in Africa and Ethiopia. Floor is yours.
He may have a challenge. Maybe we'll proceed to Mr. Professor Jamal. Jay, Mr. Abdul Basit may be challenged with the mic, so if you want to go with Professor Jamal.
Sure, inviting now Professor Jamal to the floor. Can you hear us, Professor Jamal?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So I don't know if you heard me, I just want to repeat for that. Please give us a bio of you, a background, also a couple of minutes in why do you think, what are the cybersecurity challenges in Africa, specifically in Ethiopia? Floor is yours.
I don't know what to say about myself, but it's just my name is Jamal, and I'm a professor of cybersecurity. I think for any other things, you can actually look me up online. So there are a lot of information there, but I usually don't say much about myself. In terms of cybersecurity issues, I think the contemporary issues are just phishing and money laundering problem. These are the two issues within the African continent in general, and Ethiopia in particular. But these are really the standard or the conventional issues that are everywhere. But what favors Ethiopia and Africa in general is that they are just starting up in terms of technological advancements. So the conventional issues that are commonly discussed about configuration issues, issues such as vulnerability assessments, risk analysis, and all these issues are core issues. But Ethiopia and Africa, the major challenge will be what is coming up, which is Internet of Things. That will be the major problems in Ethiopia. Internet of Things will be very cheap, and almost everybody will have it. And this will create a serious problem within the African continent and Ethiopia as well. The reason I try sort of to move away from the conventional security issues that has been raised by my colleagues here is there are advancements in computing capabilities. Quantum computing is on the horizon, which basically invalidates most of the security controls that are currently used. So it becomes basically most of these things that we've been talking about becomes useless when quantum computing is fully operational. From my point of view, I think Ethiopia needs to really advance in terms of educational training, in cybersecurity educational training, by introducing this early in schools, and then really specialization at university level. So cybersecurity will be mostly service oriented, and then for this, Ethiopia has both the human power, the institutions, but that needs to be actually go down to school level, and as well as specialization at the higher institutions. Strong collaboration in terms of research is important in cybersecurity to gain some most important advancements that will help both the educators and as well as the practitioners, and particularly harnessing the unseen capability of the Ethiopian origins in most part of the world outside Ethiopia, like many other countries, they do. China does, India does, and many other countries too. So these are basically what I wanted to put forward in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jamal. So it's very insightful. And I think you brought a couple of different angles on the discussion, especially phishing, especially the money laundering challenges. And I think you also, I think, have evolved around the IoT and why IoT is critical in the forms of our cybersecurity issues because of the abundance, availability, and the low internet cost. So definitely, you touched on quantum. Even here is that in the Western Hemisphere, that is also a challenge. But definitely, we will come to that. And thanks for sharing. So I see Mr. Abdul Bas Ahmed. Is that correct? You are in mute. I see you are speaking, but you are on mute. Professor Solomon or Dr. Wandemu, can you unmute Professor Mr. Abdul Bas Ahmed?
He's on mute. Could you please speak, Mr. Abdul Basit? We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Your speaker is not, your mic is not working. No, we can't hear you either. Uh, 10 minutes mark, Jay, you have 10 minutes to conclude. Not yet. We can't hear you still. No, we can't hear you, Mr. Abdul Basit. Jay, you might want to go to someone else until Mr. Abdul Basit keep trying and keep testing.
Okay, so going back on the second topic, this will be, I think that will be the last one for you guys, and we'll open to Q&A. So going to Teddy, what we like to know is, do you think there is, what are the sectors do you think are very weak currently in Ethiopia that needs high cybersecurity attention? We have e-government, we have banking, fintech, we have supply chain. Which one do you think had a hard need and that need to be addressed?
Thank you.
Teddy, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes,
yeah. So which area you think is this going to be? Telecom? Is it the fintech industry? Is it retail or the transportation?
Yeah.
Which sector is in need of a cybersecurity attention?
Well, the cybersecurity level is not different for the e-commerce or fintech or telecom. It's just all the same. So I would say that everybody will be in attack surface to any cybersecurity attackers. But my view is, as you know that Ethiopia or Africa is in a leapfrog stage. So the IT dependency is not that much growing currently, but it will be gradually. So for me, the basic things must be built by now. At the same time, while growing the IT system numbers or the IT how the IT essential, increasingly essential to the world or to Africa also. So at the same time, the cybersecurity should be built so that it will be a good surface, or we have a good defense surface, so that we can at least, if we don't stop the attacks, but we can be able to resume all the service, at the minimum level. So what I would like to suggest to Ethiopians or Africa countries, the basic, the awareness, and those things that last time Mr. Sherman mentioned, technical point of view, the governments, the legal, the user, everybody, every basic thing should be built so that minimum the communication between the government or the organization should be good level, so that once if there is an incident, the process side of you and the technical side of it can be able to communicate. And of course, at some point, we can able to enhance our data securities. We can improve our governance, IT governance. And then, of course, at some point, we are able to help or be able to minimize frauds, and then reduce business-related risks. So what I would like to share with Professor Sharma, so he mentioned a good point. Okay, let's build the cybersecurity implementation, but doesn't enough also. So what means that it needs frequently update, frequently follow. For that reason, you need to have this IT audit also. The audit gives you an opportunity to evaluate yourself, assess yourself, so that you know the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. So
Jay, you have
I finalized my point on this.
The mic, I think. You want to try him?
Okay. So thank you, Teddy. So just wanted to point, I'm gonna put you on the spot. So which industry do you think?
You have 4 minutes remaining, please. You still have Mr. Basit, Abdul Basit to speak to, please.
Okay, Salam, Professor, do we have the keynote speaker or?
No, you have 4 minutes remaining to finish your session, please.
Okay. So we'll come back to you, Teddy. So Dr. Abdul Basit, Mr. Abdul Basit Ahmed, are you there?
We can't hear you still, Mr. You can type in the chat if you like, and we can read it for you. But Jay, we can't hear him, so please. Now we can hear you.
So in a couple of minutes, can you welcome to the panel? In a couple of minutes, can you give a background of yourself, and also articulate why do you think is the challenge, the cybersecurity challenge in Africa, especially in Ethiopia, please?
I'm sorry. I thought you came back. No, unfortunately, Jay, we can't hear him. So please go ahead and finish up a couple of minutes.
So I'm going to come to Professor Sharma. What industry do you think in 30 seconds, and we're running out of time, in 30 seconds, which industry do you think is in need of attention? Cybersecurity, is the banking, or you talked earlier also, is this the e-commerce side, or is this the transportation or telecom?
Well, Professor Jamal, thank you. Actually, I perceive the cyber world and internet world in a different manner after this, Corona, because the BC is before Christ and AC is after Christ, Jesus Christ. But for me, BC is before Corona and AC is after Corona. So internet before Corona, IBC, and internet after Corona, IAC. I want to, coin these two models today. Briefly, I would like to explain. In a very short span of time, the internet traffic increased during this Corona period, because each and every service was, migrating or shifting over the internet. Education, business, banking, delivery, whatnot, communication. So during this, computing was over the internet. Communication was over the internet, collaboration was over the internet. And therefore, over the collaboration platforms, over the communication platforms, over the computational platforms, whether it is banking, e-commerce, industry, hospital services, transaction services, delivery services, blockchain, supply chain, everything was shifting over the internet. So internet traffic increased. And definitely when the traffic increased, the cyber attack increased, because they are having some, internal relationship. Different researchers coined this thing. And in this particular, when we talk, this particular context, when we talk about the developing countries, underdeveloped countries, and developing countries, there are three: underdeveloping country, developing countries, and developed countries. And internet is basically one of the tools of the democracy, but is another side is tool of the colonization. I'm sorry to say, but it is fact. It can be covered by the media as well, no problem. Colonization in terms of all these servers are located in mostly developed countries, or those countries which are very powerful in the technology, but they are developing state like India and China. And if the poor countries even want to compromise, want to avoid the privacy, or want to ask for the privacy, is still that privacy cannot be ensured by the service providers. So what kind of roadmaps, what kind of frameworks, what kind of models, what kind of legal laws, what kind of enforcement technology, defense mechanism or defense technology is required to be designed, isn't by the underdeveloping or developing countries. These developed countries and rich developing countries, they will not think there should be a treaty, there should be bilateral or a trilateral treaty among these countries, so that the judicious defense mechanism, judicious security and privacy must be guaranteed and ensured. But still, as of now, I have gone through under the different United Nations, agendas, still such kind of the law, models and mechanisms are not in place. So this internet is a weapon of democracy, but it is also a weapon of disturbance, isn't it? This may create, because United Nations, under Tunisia agenda, established this IGF, isn't it, to govern the internet, to provide the judicious, support to the internet governance. Because, for example, if I say, if you have a recharge, 40 birr, according to Ethiopia, isn't it, and 5,000 mobile, you can create the disturbance in any corner of the world by the internet, by the help of the internet. So a person is Indian, sitting is America, isn't creating the disturbance in China, and is caught during the travel in France. Which country laws will punish him? Citizens in different crime did from different location, crime was done, it's arrested in different country. There is no such kind of common law. So if such kind of the things will be sustained, will not be available in any countries, I think in future things will be challenging. So we should focus that how to elevate this divide, haves and have not, difference between haves and have nots, divide, haves and have nots, isn't it? So divide and divide, both are required to be diluted with judicious justice for the developing countries like African continent. And if this is done, definitely it will be a good roadmap, a good survival model in the cyber world in future.
All right, thank you, Professor Sharma. So I want to put it in a corner. So which industry do you think needs desperately cybersecurity attention? Is it banking? Is it a telecom? Or is it retail and so on? Can you pick just one?
Pardon?
Say which industry in Ethiopia, from your observation, do you think immediate attention on cybersecurity? Is it the banking sector, or is this the telecom sector, or it is the retail sector? Which one do you think, from your opinion? Just your opinion.
Both sectors, because both are complement to each other. One is banking sector, because banking sector cannot survive without the internet, and internet services are provided by the telecom. So telecoms company cannot survive without the banking sector's inputs and the services, isn't it? So both because public is taking the services, public is availing the services, isn't it? So public is the customer of the banking system. So both are complement, and both must work together with collaboration, close collaboration. Because if you are weak, I am weak. If I am weak, you are weak.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, that was the answer I was seeking. So there is codependency. I appreciate it. So moving now to
can I add here a couple of words here? Well, I agree with Professor Sharma. Telecom and banking, they are same level. But I would like to add also in Africa in general, we need to have consistent electric power, so that both things are working together. So please, we don't forget also how it's not possible to have a light even, you know, nowadays. So I would like to point out also that the electric power is a basic things also. Thank you.
Jay, if I may
I
read
just
Mr.
want to comment also.
Abdul Basit's, Mr. Abdul Basit's comment in the chat. He says the challenges are cyber attacks. Example, Ethiopia experienced 8,985 cyber attacks this budget year, out of which 45% was targeted on key infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you,
Just to add to the discussion of which sector is affected, I think all three are critical infrastructures. Although currently the banking is in Ethiopia, what is being more modernized in terms of introduction of IT capabilities, whereas I think the telecom is a little bit ahead. Transportation is much below the other two, but all three are critical factors. All three are critical infrastructures, and I believe that banking and telecom are the most important at this juncture of the IT diffusion in Ethiopia.
Thank you, Professor Jamal. I think we have now, I think, pulled a good trade to pull further this trade. So we are discussing about banking and telecom. So I want to go back one round until the other panels come in. So I'll come back to Teddy now.
If I may, Jay,
yes,
in the chat, Mr. Abdul Basit is saying the key issues in Ethiopia are lack of awareness, insufficient focus from respective governments. They give priority to other sectors, hence less capacity building, lack of self-resilience in cybersecurity, lack of legislation framework for Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for relaying this message. We appreciate it. So I think as we go in the second part of the panel discussion, we have about 5 minutes, and we'll open it up for the Q&A. But I think it's apparent that awareness is coming back and forth, as you can see through even the chat. So I'll pose this question. What can we do to start awareness? So I think we want to have a takeaway through this discussion. If you want to give 30 seconds or a minute of each of you, what are like the 3 things, at least the 3 low-hanging fruit we can do to increase awareness? Teddy, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, you know, the first thing that we have to work together. All associations, Japan Cybersecurity Association, Ethiopian Information System Audit Association, ECySA, and other stakeholders have to work together so that we have to make kind of a plan so that we will conduct different kinds of awareness training. That's the basic thing that we have to do. Really, we don't need to waste our time. Just have to do it as soon as possible. In terms of the other thing that we need to work on the policy side, so that the government need to have a policy that that makes it to the other stakeholders to have their security in place, and there should be a procedure, should be policy, so that all stakeholders need to be able to secure their systems, not only building the systems, but also secure and give a training for different kinds of level, within different kinds of levels. So the training should be one, and the policy, and of course more the private sector need to participate also. without private sector, the government alone can't do all the stuff, especially in a country like Ethiopia, 120 million people, different kinds of environment. So they should be open for the private sector, for the private sectors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Teddy. So I think I just have a couple of themes. So one is collaboration between association ECySA, ECySA. Also, I think you ran the Audit Association Ethiopia, I see that. And also in private and public collaboration. Also, you point out, I think, policy and governance that can be led by government, specifically training to end users, also to the enterprise. Because I'll pose, thank you. I'll pose the same thing to Professor Sharma. I mean, what are the three, things, low-hanging fruit we can do to increase awareness?
Well, as Mr. Teddy mentioned, that the private sector's participation is also required to be ensured. And not only government and private sectors, but educational institutions, especially college, school, and universities, they should actively participate because they are providing not only the education, but they should also provide the basic, etiquettes, that is called netiquettes. Etiquettes means just a journal, but netiquettes means how to serve, how to interact, how to work in the net world. Because all we are citizens, but we are also netizens, isn't it? So in this particular concern, there should be a national level policy. And national level policy should ask the schools, colleges, and universities that they should train or provide the awareness to the students, isn't it? And they should ensure that one student will provide or assure the training or the awareness to 5 people in the society. If this chain is created, impact, not only impact, the population which will be aware with the cybersecurity threats and challenges will be significantly, that the roadmap means the impact will be visible across the nation, number one. Number two, as far as the divide and divide is concerned, divide means just like we should avoid the people, or we should make such technologies and other things inaccessible to the general public. That is to divide. Divide means haves, have-nots. In these two things, we should establish a judicious balance. If the judicious balance is established, this is not only the responsibility of the government sector, because I have seen in basically, especially in the developing country, including my own country, everything we seek or we expect from the government, but everything cannot be done by the government. Who is government? We people are the part of the government. We people are the government, isn't it? The government is made by us, and we are not made for them, but government is made for us. So we should be actively participate in all such kind of the things, and we should make this awareness in terms of, for example, designer will design, developer will develop, deployer will deploy the technology, controller will control, operator will operate, but the users will not do anything. They are seeking the government will provide the support, isn't it? Expert will provide the support. Until unless you are not aware, or you are not careful about your internet access, of your device access, or some other access, nobody can provide you the defense mechanism. So everybody's participation in terms of sensible participation is required to be ensured at all the levels, and school, college, and university can play a very, very huge and vital role in this concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. I do appreciate, especially point out that the academia partnership is important, which is the key, which usually get overlooked. Also, I like to echo what you said, we are the government, we are the people, so we shouldn't always wait for the government to do something for us. So thanks for that note. So for the last thought, I'm going to go to Professor Jamal. Professor Jamal, in 1 minute, can you expand in both in Teddy and Professor Sharma, the 3 low-hanging fruit that can increase awareness? 3 items you can suggest that can help us increase security awareness in Ethiopia.
We can't hear you, Professor Jamal. I know you have unmuted, but for some reason, can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we do.
So if you can point out 3 items that can be done immediately, to overcome the security awareness challenge we have in Ethiopia.
Audio is lost again.
Awareness, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awareness is actually the lowest of cybersecurity management. There is awareness training and education that is really followed in that sequence. Within Ethiopia, we need to look at the organizational level awareness and public awareness. These two are completely different awarenesses. For the organizational awareness, it has to come from top down. In other words, you need to make the CEOs and board of directors to be aware, and then they will actually create organizational culture. There is some noise coming through. I hope it's not from me. Then we also need to carry out public awareness at different scale. The good thing about Ethiopia is that the majority of the young people are IT or IT related gadget aware. So with little education, they can, we can increase the awareness of this particular group of people. But focusing really on the organizational awareness itself is very important at this particular moment. So by organization, I mean it is public organization, private organization, educational institutions, and so forth. I have written extensively, published in this area, and I am happy to share if anybody wants to read on some of my publications.
Thank you, Professor Jamal. We appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to put the link to the chat and so people can pick it up, that would be nice. So now I know, thanks everyone, and we're gonna go to the Q&A. We're gonna open the floor to the audience. Please, Professor Solomon, facilitate that. So audience, you have a chance. We have about 4 panelists, so the 3 are here in an audio, and we have Mr. Ahmed also, Abdul Basit Ahmed also on chat. Please proceed. We have about, say, 10 minutes for Q&A.
So we have one question, which I will read. Before that, let me read a comment from Mr. Abdul Basit. He mentioned that Ethiopia has a national information security policy, and he said that's about to be replaced by the national cybersecurity policy and strategy, which is in process and being ratified. He also added comments about that we should endeavor to incorporate cybersecurity into the educational curriculums. We should encourage startups and private companies to focus on cybersecurity, and then focus on commitment about implementation of policies. The question or comment that came out was from Sami, I believe. Do we have any documents or research that show the IT asset environment in Ethiopia in terms of devices and operating systems?
Okay, thank you, Professor. Is there anybody who want to take that question?
Question? Would you please repeat the question?
Do we have any documents or research that show the IT assets environment in Ethiopia in terms of devices and operating systems?
I think a local person would be very good, suitable person to comment on it. But let me tell you one thing. There are a lot of things in Ethiopia which are emerging every day, but everything is not documented. And every documented thing is not necessarily that it is effective or working or is on place. So documentation is one aspect, implementation is another aspect, isn't it? And I appreciate your question. And but you know, documentation after documentation, either publication or presentation in the parliament or the national legal systems, isn't it? Legal or governance systems is a long process. It's a long process. But even if after finishing this workshop, isn't it? This international workshop of a conference, we can do something, isn't it? Which is not documented. So I think Ethiopia is lucky enough that its young generation is working very hard on three most important tiers. One is aptitude, that is called cyber aptitude. Another one is cyber attitude, aptitude, attitude, cyber attitude, and cyber netitude. Because each and everything must be visualized, analyzed, diagnosed, synthesized in terms of netizen world, isn't it? So netitude is different thing, attitude is different thing, aptitude. And if these three things are converged together, isn't it? Definitely countries' task forces and the defense mechanism will be strengthened enough. Thank you.
Jay, if I may read, there's a comment here from Kibraab that may go along with the response that's just being given. For any nation or institution to have a strong cybersecurity system, the following four pillars should work in harmony. 1, human dimension, cybersecurity. 2, technical dimension. 3, legal dimension. 4, inter and intra-organizational collaboration. As to me, aforementioned pillars are at infant stage. Investing huge amount of money in cutting-edge technology is useless unless people know how to operate it and manage it. Special focus should be given on intentional and unintentional insider threats. In Ethiopia, everything is to share, not to protect. Example, social media. Since there is acute shortage of cyber security experts in Ethiopia, I propose virtual training is better to reach wider population to enhance cybersecurity know-how. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Solomon. I think this is very good. I think these are valid thoughts and comments. It goes a long way to what earlier we discussed of providing training. You know, I think Dr. Dean is the next keynote speaker. Hopefully, who will touch on that. So thank you. Any questions? Any comments from your side? You can see Professor Solomon.
No new ones.
Okay. I would think we have about 7 minutes to finish, so I will give our panelists a closing statement. So if you want to go ahead and give us your closing thought in 1 minute, that would be great. If any question comes up, we'll entertain at the end. Please, first, Teddy, please go ahead and give your closing thought in 1 minute.
All right, thank you, Jay. Well, you know, dependency on information system is growing. At the same time, the IT systems also face growing numbers of risk. In Ethiopia or in Africa, this kind of situation might not be visible at the moment. However, what I would like to focus out is that, you know, we have to build the cybersecurity, the resilience and the continuity from the beginning, from now onwards. So always my fear, our cyber traffic won't be just like Addis Ababa traffic situation. So please, those governments or private sectors participate to build the cybersecurity together along with us, with the associations and different stakeholders, but also we need to educate people's with our capacity. We can work together on that regard. So that's why that's my closing point. So educate, educate, educate. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it, and I would like to thank you also for coming and sharing your knowledge. Hopefully, we'll see you in a few rounds down the road, and thank you for everything you do. I think I like to know Terry is also one of our ECySA organization backbone. He participates in a lot of working groups, so we'd like to thank you on that. So going to Professor Sharma, can you give in 1 minute your closing talk, please?
Thank you. Actually, I'm lucky that I am the part of this wonderful scholarly event where some PhD scholars like Kabrab, our staff doctors, Muhammad, and our Dr. Darwaje, and many people are present here, and they're listening me like Tagel, Mr. Tagel, and they are working in their ways to provide the support to the cybersecurity. But in our very ancient language of India, we say, Ano Bhadra Krutvo Yanto Vishwata, means let novel thought come from all the young and experienced people. Try to converse them, create the model, isn't it, in a responsible manner, in a sensible manner, and in a judicious manner, so that we can make this cyber world a dream world for the world, rather than the destroy world for the world, isn't it? Dream world is good, but destroy the world is not good. So we have to make this cyber world, dream world for everybody with the peace, prosperity, and progress. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Jai.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. We appreciate it. We thank you for your insight and sharing your knowledge. And it's good to have to see this high caliber educator in Ethiopia. So definitely this will not be the last time we're going to see you. You're going to continue to engage on this. So going on the last also to Professor Jamal. One thought, your closing thought, please. Professor Jamal, you can hear us. Yes, you're the.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
1 minute.
Yep. Okay. Actually, without minimizing the other areas that everybody has raised, for me, as Ethiopians, we need a strong technical capacity building. In cybersecurity, we need very strong technical capacities within the universities, students, masters, bachelor, and PhD, very, very strong capacity. Without solid technical capacities, having cybersecurity laws and other components like awareness and training and so forth, they will come by themselves if we have a strong technical capacity within the Ethiopian context. So for me, as I said, without minimizing the importance of the others, I have actually seen many countries followed this. They build their technical capacities, and then they developed the laws, cybersecurity laws, as they go on. So we need to focus on building strong capacities within our institutions and think of generating cybersecurity as a service and not just as something that the other countries did this and we need to follow that. No, we need to start from where we are now and build strong capacity. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this discussion.
Definitely.
Jay, if I may read Mr. Abdul Basit's closing remarks.
Yeah, let me thank
it is.
Yeah, let me thank you, Professor Jamal. I appreciate it for sharing this insight, and hopefully we'll see you in a future panel. Insightful. Please proceed, Professor Solomon.
Mr. Abdul Basit's closing remarks. It is of paramount importance to cooperate and tackle the cybersecurity issues together. We need private and public partnerships, even within government institutions among themselves need to work together. We also need to focus on African states, especially in diplomacy and cybersecurity, working together. This is a space not to be compromised. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Solomon. So with that, we are on time, 9:30. I'd like to thank everyone who attended panel one, specifically our panelists and Professor Solomon for driving us through this. And this is great. I think we had a lot of knowledge. Also, I like to know that this recording will be available on YouTube and streaming. That will be distributed. So please amplify. Please tell your network. We continue to have this discussion in the future time. Thank you, Professor Solomon, and back to you for panel two. Please stick around for panel two.
All right, thank you, Jay, and panel one participants. We appreciate you. So this is now the second session. We're having the panel two starts now. The topic for panel two is cybersecurity stakeholders synergy framework. We understand there are multiple stakeholders that have interest in cybersecurity in Ethiopia, in Africa, and everywhere. So how do we form synergy among these disparate partners, these stakeholders that may have different interests? How do we bring them together? Is there a framework? Is there a roadmap we can look forward? So that's the topic for panel two. We have several distinguished guests I'm going to introduce in a little bit. But before that, we want to do the keynote speak. Our Dr. Richard Dean, professor at Morgan State University, but he has his own institute, Chesapeake Cyber Institute, that is leading. Dr. Wandemu earlier mentioned, they work together on that. So maybe he can tell us a little bit about that. He was a former national security advisor or expert at in the US. Time for you, Dr. Dean. Give us your keynote speak and look forward to hear from you. Thank you for being here.
Yes, good morning again. And can I bring up a PowerPoint here to guide you through my...
Let me see, you should, Dr. Wandemu, can you give him sharing privileges, please?
Yeah, you should be able to share, I think. Yeah.
Okay, there we are. Technology is amazing. So I am Richard Dean, and I've been in this business for a long time. I've been doing security for 56 years. And I spent the whole career at the National Security Agency. I watched the beginning of the internet. I watched the challenges of the internet. I saw how governments struggle to manage the security problem. And I spent 20 years teaching at Morgan State University. I developed a cybersecurity program there. And then recently I've started up with some colleagues, Wandemu amongst them, to develop a cybersecurity, Chesapeake Cybersecurity Institute. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So let me, okay, so I want to talk about why synergy, okay? And I think you've addressed that to some extent, that cybersecurity is a hard problem. It's not a problem that is easily solved by smart people or an individual or one organization. There's no central point of control. It's a distributed systems, distributed technology. We have limited resources. No one government, no one university, no one organization has the breadth of control or knowledge to be able to do that. So I I feel like what needs to be there is best practice. And so for any organization, for any individual, is you look to what is the best practice? And the best practice is a whole inventory of things that you can follow and buy into, and that takes you, it's sort of, you jump into the river and it takes you where you need to go. And then collaborate. So I've heard that term all morning, and I'll say it again, that collaboration is how this happens. And if we watched any of the successes here, if there is success, it happens when government and industry and academia come together and lay out the framework, the roadway, the policies, the standards that enables this to happen. And this needs to happen nationally and internationally. So why is cyber a hard problem, right? When I worked at NSA, when at the beginning of the internet, we thought, well, you know, we'll just put a little box on the connection there and we'd make it secure, because that's what we always did. It didn't work. And the reason was that there was no control. There were many developers. And the way this operates is that people that develop technology, they focus on operations. So, for example, the bank wants to make connectivity. You know, we want to get customers. We want to get people online. And then we say, oh yeah, and we'll take care of security later. And so the foundations of the technology did not anticipate security. The TCP/IP protocol, for example, didn't really anticipate security. And so it's fundamentally an open, unsecure protocol, and that virtually hasn't changed. The other thing is that the technology is changing rapidly. So if you have a technical solution, it may be good for today, but maybe not tomorrow. And so this is really significant. And there are no simple solutions. So anybody that's looking for, you know, one piece of technology, one policy, it's not there. You're not going to get there. I like to say that cybersecurity is an art and not a science. So many of us are from scientific backgrounds, and you know, we have a set of differential equations. We solve the equations, we get a solution. It's, you know, we have a solution, we're done. Cybersecurity is an art. And that means that it's complex, and we manage it, and we're learning how to do that. And maybe 10, 20, 50 years from now, it'll be a science. But today it's an art, and we have to manage it that way. So just a little bit of background on security properties and vulnerabilities and risk. Understand, and this is basic confidentiality, integrity, availability, that's sort of security 101. It's important that you understand your application and your problem to understand whether is it the sensitivity of the data that's important? Is it the integrity of your communications? If you're a bank, for example, the integrity of your processes are most important. Confidentiality may be not as important. But if you're a communications organization and you're providing telecom or power, availability is important. In some cases, all of these are important. So you start by looking at your problem. And now to some vulnerabilities, and this is just an overview to provide perspective. There are thousands and thousands of vulnerabilities out there. Any large piece of software has, lots of vulnerabilities. Operating systems with billions of lines of code have incredible potential for vulnerabilities, and people find new ones every day. And there are new attacks every day. So this is the world that we live in, and we don't know how to avoid vulnerabilities. We don't know how to analyze software to see all the problems that are there. and some of the problems are people. So here are the types of attacks. Now this is a big chart, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed by it. But if you just look at organizing the attacks from fraud or passive attacks or exploits or insider attacks or malicious attacks, password attacks. I mean, just the picture of all of the attacks and all the vulnerabilities out there are incredible. So you need to appreciate the fact that the scope of the problem is huge. And if you look at the trend here, the trend is a lot more focus on financial, perhaps less on espionage and other things. So financial turns out to be people have figured out how to monetize cyber attacks. Organized crime are big players, okay? And so even though you think about state affiliated issues and government as being really important, no, it's actually organized crime is probably the biggest threat out there. And of course, financial and others. And this chart shows that the breaches and how long it takes to discover breaches. And the important part here is that some breaches aren't found for months at a time. So this shows 20% of breaches that are out there, which means your system has been compromised. They don't find them for a couple of months. And that means that you have malware sitting in your system for months at a time. And the challenge associated with that is awesome. So a lot of people focus on, managing their boundaries and don't realize that managing what people are inside their systems turns out to be a real big long-term problem. And this shows the different patterns. So social engineering, phishing, for example, is a major trend, significant. System intrusion, which is classical hacking is still out there. But so you can see that, and then the important thing here is it's constantly changing. And finally, ransomware is probably one of the really biggest challenges out there today, because people have determined that their financial viability of hacking creates an economy for some countries, actually. Now, I want to talk about the risk model here, and just to understand that I look at risk as the combination of vulnerabilities and threats. And if you look at your system, here's your system, you have threat agents here, they launch attacks, and somewhere in your system, you have these weaknesses, and you may have lots of weaknesses, and there may be lots of attacks. A lot of people focus on managing this boundary here, that they can either eliminate the attacks or eliminate the weaknesses. And certainly that can be done. Most people avoid the security controls, which is detecting the breaches. We talked about breaches being there for a month or two at a time, because those active breaches affect your assets or your capability, and the impact then comes from that. So just to focus on that as a strategy. And then this diagram here shows the framework for risk. And here in this red circle are all the threats and vulnerabilities that you might have in your system. And this blue circle represents your controls, your ability to manage that. Now, at any point in time, your controls probably don't manage all of your threats and vulnerabilities. And so this area here, this red area here, represents your residual risk. And understand that this residual risk is really what you need to focus on. And unfortunately, this is constantly changing because the vulnerabilities are changing constantly, and your ability to manage that is changing constantly. So for example, the 0-day vulnerabilities, which is new attacks that are out there, represents a change in this space here, and your ability to manage that determines how much of exposure you have to that system. So, and this really points to cybersecurity as being as much a management problem as it is a technical problem, because your management problem is to somehow have your controls cover these vulnerabilities as quickly as possible and as completely as possible. So let's talk about an Ethiopian cyber strategy. And this is my sense of where things might go. I think the first step is to organize. And what I see today is encouraging, because you're beginning to organize. And the reason is that you can't do this by yourself. And so you can organize at every level, certainly at the national level, even internationally and beyond. And then the second is to pick a best practice. So don't try to invent stuff that's already been invented. Look for the best practice that's out there. And I'm going to point to NIST as the best practice that I recommend and use, but ISO and others are out there, and there are families of solutions, and you'll see in a bit why that's an important strategy. And then adapt that to Ethiopia's problem. So, for example, your problem might be in critical infrastructure. And if I were on the previous section, I'd say, the most important thing I would look at is critical infrastructure. So you talked about banking and telecommunications, but then you have transportation, you have the power grid, you have your water systems, and so many other things are critical. But adapted to that. So customize. You have solution sets here, customize and prioritize that for Ethiopia's problems. And then the next thing to do is to find some partners. So industry partners might be organizations that can provide consulting to you, or provide software tools for you, or families of tools that will allow you to basically address this strategy, whatever strategy you have. And then finally, education and training. So I've heard this throughout the morning. Education and training is going to be key. And so if it's important for your technical people to be able to help solve this problem. And it's also important for even for common users who need to be cyber savvy. The term netiquette, I think, is a great term. Those are things that need to happen. So let's talk a little bit about best practice. And this is the US model. And, I think it's a good one. So in the US, what's happened is NSA, National Security Agency, is really where most of our technical expertise is. And these are the experts who understand at a very deep level cybersecurity. And NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, is responsible for basically capturing and managing cybersecurity for the government. So their job is to basically provide guidance to the government and to industry. So NIST plays a very central role here. They have access to some real expertise, and they build solutions, and then they you notice the connection here to industry. So NIST works with industry, and they actually look for industry to take a lead, and they provide guidance. And then the solutions then work not just for the government, but also for industry. So you build a community of interest. And remember that, your vulnerability is my vulnerability. You and I are connected. It's almost like the coronavirus. If we're both wearing masks, or if we both have inoculations, then we're both safer. But so when I have a cyber problem, you have a cyber problem. So that collaboration is key. So and this is a sample of the NIST framework. So that NIST has hundreds of documents that are available to support a framework of solutions. So for example, they have a risk framework, they have cryptographic standards, they have a whole framework for industrial critical infrastructure. They have standards for defining the workforce. What are the jobs and what are the skills? Supply chain management, incident handling. What happens? What do you do when your systems are compromised? What forensic techniques? So this is just an incredible wealth of material. It's free, it's open, it's published, and more importantly, a lot of people have organized around this so that the language that you use, the terminology that you use, the strategies that you use are common, and that really enables tremendous capability. And there are some others out there. So you have NIST, but you also have ISO and things like the Internet Engineering Task Force and IEEE and others that could be used. So I want to talk about education and training. You know, I've heard that that's going to be key, and I agree with that. So let me share with you how Morgan State approached that, and I was key to the development of the program there. What we did was we went to the NSA DHS, so that's the National Security Agency, Department of Homeland Security. They developed a whole set of framework of here are the topics, here are the issues, here are the requirements for to be an excellence in information assurance, which is really cybersecurity. And so what we did was to take all of those requirements and map them into courses. So I cover this course and this course and this course. And it turns out we were able to do that with 4 courses, and we were designated as a center of excellence using that strategy. And then in teaching the courses, we went to NIST. So this basically took were the topics. NIST provided the content. So we basically took the content here from NIST, and we used that then to create the courses. So we use a few textbooks, but by and large, the NIST framework provided a tremendous technical detail. And this is what I would consider best practice. So that's how we developed those courses. And this is just a visual that sort of shows that here are the, imagine the knowledge units. So these are the topics that you need to cover. And then these got mapped into courses. And then we used the NIST guidelines to basically enlighten and provide context and substance to those topics in those courses. So that's how we've done that. And that worked well for us. And then Chesapeake Cyber Institute is now a partner with Morgan State, and myself and some colleagues have basically developed. We felt that there was a critical need for training, more than just education, and to basically accelerate learning in this area. So we basically followed that same NSA DHS academic model. We streamlined that for essential cyber elements so that we if you get a master's degree, you probably take 10 courses and you do all this other stuff. We said, no, we just basically, we just wanted the essential pieces because this is training. Education's important, this is training. We added to that a boot camp, a hands-on experience, and we found that that was really lacking, and students really wanted that. So we adapted the Morgan program to fit training needs, so we could do this in 24 weeks. That's an accelerated program, but even at that, it's a part-time program. It's online, it's available, and so that would mean it's accessible to a lot of people. They could work their regular job and they could learn cybersecurity at nights and weekends, and they could do that in 24 weeks. we have 4 basic academic courses similar to what I showed you. We have 2 courses that are just boot camp, and the boot camp and the courses are tied together. So it's really critical that you learn the topic and then you get the hands-on experience. And we're working with Dr. Staki, I can see he's joined us, and Morgan State to basically put that together to create a continuing education program where this would be accessible to people in Ethiopia and Africa. So it's really key. And so our program basically takes those 4 courses and we tie that in with the boot camp so that those topics and those things are related. And I want to emphasize here, we talked about synergy. Within our courses, the academics provide a really solid foundation, an understanding of cybersecurity. But the hands-on experience allows students to really apply that. And so it turns out that the synergy is if I understand these topics and then I work on a boot camp to get the hands-on experience, I really can do that much better. And if I'm working on hands-on material, it gives me much better insight into the academics. So these things really play together. It's kind of like when you took a course in chemistry and you studied the chemistry and then you had a laboratory and then you did projects and experiments and you really learned that on a very fundamental level. So we think that's central to what we do. And so anyhow, finally, this is these are your cyber threats and this is you. And when we were talking earlier about Ethiopia and Ethiopia's problems, the critical thing here is that, there are a lot of people out. The lion could be chasing a lot of people, but it's the slowest one that he gets and eats, okay? And so you just need to be faster than other people. If Ethiopia has an extensive internet infrastructure and you're weak, then you will be a magnet for all of the attackers out there. The ransomware people will find you. And so you need to run faster. You don't need to run faster than the lion. You need to run faster than everybody else. Okay. And so if you want to keep your beer, you need to run faster than the lion because lions are, you need to run faster than this guy. You don't have to run faster than the lion. Okay, so a little attempt at humor here. So I just want to close where I started, which is, so this is where I think you need to go. I think you need to organize, and I see you doing that. I applaud you for that. Pick a best practice, adapt that to Ethiopia's problem, find industry partners and tools that will enable you to do that. The NIST standards, for example, have been adopted by a lot of people, and there are sets of tools that work for that. And then finally, you need to develop your education and training so that you have a skilled workforce that can make that happen. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to take some questions, or we can have our panel discussion. So Solomon, I'll leave it to you to tell us where.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dean. What a way to encapsulate the topic of discussion for this panel. Cybersecurity, you brought that up, and the idea of the synergy, you put it really nicely. I heard someone say, how do we close the gap? They say, you close the gap with the gap. I think that's the gap stands for government, academia, and private industries. I think you mentioned those three. Forming that synergy with those people actually help. And with the framework, I think you have articulated very well NIST, as he has given us the detail, the National Institute of standards and technology in the US. They set up a lot of standards. He shows us some examples of what they do. So instead of reinventing the wheel, there's best practices to look at, or ISO, International Organization of Standards for Standardization. So there are things to start with, things we don't have to start from scratch and be able to work. So thank you so much. Before I move to the panel, by the way, Dr. Dean, assuming you're available, to the extent you're available, I want you to participate in the panel discussion as well. So as long as you're available, I'm going to include you and involve you in this. Before I move to introducing the panel, however, I'll be amiss if I don't bring up Dr. Jakob Astatke, who has joined us, to at least say something about Dr. Dean and Morgan State University and the upcoming cybersecurity training. Dr. Astatke, Dr. Jakob Astatke, would you all probably know the famous Mulatu Astatke. Dr. Jakob is from VP of Global Initiatives at Morgan State University, and he's joining us. Dr. Astatke, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Solomon. Dr. Dean, it's good to see you again. Let's say colleagues from Ethiopia, it's great for me to be here. I always have a joke with my older brother, Dr. Mulatu. I told him he's famous in music. I say I'm trying to be famous in engineering. So he told me just be patient. I have 50 years experience ahead of you. So it's my pleasure and my honor to meet and talk to everybody here. For the last 15 to 20 years, I've been returning to Ethiopia in different capacities, focusing on engineering education. And now in my role of as Vice President for International Affairs, I'm very happy that Morgan now has a new initiative called Morgan Global. And our goal there is to make sure that we take Morgan's education and training and have it available on a global scale. We understand that there are a lot of opportunities that our partners need, especially in Africa. So with the partnership that we have with companies like Chesapeake Cyber, we believe that we can bring hands-on training in cybersecurity in other areas to our partners and clients all over Africa. Like Dr. Dean indicated, Morgan's Global Initiative has deep contacts in West Africa. This is where we started, and now we're moving to East Africa. So we plan to provide this training. So I'm happy that Ethiopia is on the front seat of this conversation, and we're hoping that they'll take the lead in starting their training. Just like Dr. Dean indicated, the people who do ransomware and they do the attack, they're all over the world. They even attack us in the US. And as long as Ethiopia is faster than the other person, then they will be able to avoid the attack. So nobody can run from the lines. So the key is how fast can we be compared to our colleagues. So we're very happy to be here. Morgan will be supporting this initiative, and we're looking forward to discussing in more detail, but we have a training workshop that we have organized free of charge to a few of our banking partners, and we will do that very soon. And then we will make that training available to other entities who need it. But I want to say thank you for hosting us, and we are ready to work with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Astatke, Dr. Jakob Astatke. Let me take a minute or so to introduce our distinguished panel for this second panel, Cybersecurity Stakeholder Synergy Framework. We have Dr. Alemayo Hailu. Dr. Al is a cybersecurity specialist, founder and CEO of Center for Advancement of Technology for Ethiopia. And we have Dr. Amadou Ba, President, the African Cybersecurity Alliance. We have Dr. Stefanos Siyum, Cybersecurity Specialist, Founder and Managing Director of ProNet, the Unified System Services and Trading. And Mr. Wendwesen Dejene, Managing Director of R&D Ethiopia. And Dr. Dereje Yohannes Ashanafi, Assistant Professor at UNECA, Lead Consultant, and in Congo, Brazzaville as well. I know we have Dr. Al, Dr. Stefanos, Dr. Dereje. I am not sure if we have the other two, but we will start, and I will bring them in as needed. So if I may ask Dr. Al to start, and then Dr. Stefanos and Dr. Dereje to go sequentially in that order. If you can introduce yourself, tell us about who you are and what you think about the panel topic to get us started, please. Dr. Al?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Dr. Solomon, and thank you, Jay, for facilitating this discussion. And also thank you, Dr. Dean, for opening remark. I am been working in this area for the last 30, 40 years, primarily in the major industries in the US, leading cybersecurity organizations, digital transformation organizations in multiple countries. So I have practical experience in this area, so which complements the academic and areas that Dr. Dean and others discussed. As pointed out earlier, cybersecurity threats are a top concern, as you know, for us and everyone around the world. But when we analyze the security incident that happens, we find that 70, 80, close to 90% of incidents are caused due to human error, configuration issues, missing patches, or firmware updates that's missing. And these are all due to lack of awareness, standards, missing, not disciplined practice. Especially, this is a particular concern for our country, as you know. Currently, for instance, in our current rush to catch up with new technology procurement, it's easier to overlook cybersecurity risk in product selections. We tend to implement these new technologies without proper measures on how to secure, adapt, and sustain these products to ensure the expected benefits are achieved. Compounding this challenge is also the lack of standard and disciplined project management program, how to adapt and sustain the technology products we acquire. Unfortunately, cybersecurity threats will continue to increase with added sophistication. So what are some of the actions we need to take to mitigate these risks? I think first, we should realize that given today's dynamic threat environment, IT security can no longer be an afterthought. We need to adopt a proactive cybersecurity strategy that's focused on prevention. In addition, the traditional project management approach is no longer sufficient in this era of heightened cyber threats. We need to foster a security by design culture where IT security is introduced at the beginning of all projects, whether the technology is acquired or developed internally. In short, security should be an integral part of the technology acquisition and development process. Security practice and processes must be built from the beginning and through each iteration, rather than being an afterthought. Doing this involves taking a security by design-centric view in the digital technology transformation effort. In addition, the measure of project success must be shifted from project implementation to adoption and sustainment. A project provides value, success only if the implemented technology is adopted, cyber secured, and its benefits are fully achieved. To facilitate this, one of the critical areas we collectively can work together and establish, for example, a center of excellence in our country for addressing technology adoption and cybersecurity challenges. This collaboration will allow us to conduct research studies, develop modular and tailored project management, technology adoption, cybersecurity solutions that's based on our own culture factors, standards, and best practices. So this is an area that we can work on collectively. Cybersecurity is a practical management method. It's not just a pseudo activity. So this basic principle needs to be implemented as quickly as possible, because this learned practice that we learn from others doing mistakes, we are in a better position right now to utilize what we've learned and implement it in our country, I think. Thank you. This is a great start. We hope to begin work in these areas to improve the adoption of technology and cybersecurity program in our country.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Al. Dr. Stefanos, please. If you can go ahead and tell us about yourself and then what you thought about the overall topic.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Stefanos, CEO. My journey actually began in cybersecurity back in AT&T, and then spin off to Lucent Technologies, and then it became Sark at Lucent. And then after I left, now I think it's called Nokia. My strong background is telecom, in the telecom industry. Yes, security is major issue because we used to be a closed environment before IP was introduced. As soon as IP jumped in the telecom, the closeness is gone. No more proprietary. No more, this is mine. Now we have to work with other service providers in order to complete the complete network system. So when it comes to security, I guess what I want to share, a lot of us, we really focus too much of the software, encryption. But what we forget is the layer one security. Really right now in Ethiopia, we're lucky. We have about 21,000 kilometers fiber nationwide. And we have what's called the WDM system. And from that WDM technology, what we get is it's called wavelength connectivity. There is two sides of it. The one is, which is the biggest problem we have, is bandwidth. And the second one is security. Because right now, everybody's connected on one bucket. But what we're trying to push is to get out of that. So each government or private enterprise should have its own connectivity without going through the service providers, which means it's just having a pipe. So that is the strongest way of securing a given network. We are working on that. Right now, we're trying to work with the city of Addis Ababa. We're trying to connect 120 districts or waradas and 11 sub-cities to bring it to one central database. So to do that, the first thing we have to do is get that pipe, what we call the wavelength. It's been almost 10, 12 years since we have it, but we have not utilized it yet. So we reach, to be honest, compared to Middle East and Africa, Ethiopia was ahead when it comes to connectivity. But unfortunately, we're not afforded use it yet. But now we're pushing hard. So the limitation should be my box, not the service provider gives me. And the second, I want to be secure, because nowadays, I mean, this VPN, people think it's a secured environment, but it's not. Can be broken in any given time. So I guess what we lack when it comes to the synergy, everybody's doing their own. If we look at it, every ministry, each department, they want to have their own cloud, their own data center, their own network. And I guess it's hard to go to paperless. when everybody's have their own, but not integrated. So the synergy is crucial. We're fighting. It's been like 15 years for me since I left Lucent and joined Ethio Telecom, and then now moved to the enterprise. So to bring this all governmental organization into one central database so they can share. At the same time, we can secure them to make sure one's not interfere with the other. Technologies out there, and we have almost a $2 billion invested resources. We have not touched it yet. So by bringing that and then create a framework, I guess what we saw earlier, the slide, I mean, we're just talking here and when you compare to US and here, that's what we miss. What we miss is coming from US to here as documentation. We don't, the east part of the universe, what I learned through my experience is like, we're not good in documenting. What that does is, it's hard to have a standard or a framework, or we're not even joining what 3GPP, 3GPP2 when it's come to mobile, and then even other standards. We are really struggling more. We are most of like isolated. We're not integrated the rest of the universe. So that really affecting us. But we look at on a positive side, we're trying to create a roadmap. We're trying to create this framework. And so at least let's start with one city, which is the capital city of Ethiopia. And also, I mean, the capital city of Africa. So if we can do that, hopefully we can take it to the remaining or the rest of the country. So my conclusion is, yes, we need synergy. We need everybody to talk, everybody to be connected, at the same time protected. And the second part is we need to focus on layer one. Most of us, actually now the technology when it comes to UTM, the Unified Threat Management, they come up with layer 8, so on top of the layer 7 OSI module. But what we completely forget is the best way to secure nowadays is a layer 1 connectivity or a layer 1 security, rather than worried about at a layer 7. So that's what we have. And if you have any question, we'll discuss more.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stefanos. Let me now go to Dr. Dereje Johannes. If you could give us a little bit blip about yourself and then share with us what you think about the overall topic.
Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, it's my great pleasure and honor to be part of this really discussion forum regarding the cybersecurity issues in Ethiopia and overall Africa and generally global. Because it's really the issue of, everybody recently. So we are transacting different sorts of, information, data, and whatsoever through the cloud and then using the cyberspace, so that we need to protect to certain levels. So I'm really very much pleased to be part of this initiative. So I am Dr. Dereje Johannes, an associate professor in computer and electrical engineering, currently working as a lead consultant at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa under the technology and innovation section. So previously, I was really engaged and leading a team during the establishment process of the first African Artificial Intelligence Center in Congo, Brazzaville, which is really mainly focused as a very fundamental component, the issue of cybersecurity. So the center is really meant for just, building the capacities and training users in the area of cybersecurity. And then I was really privileged to lead the team in order to just, establish the center, and we successfully inaugurated the center last March. So currently my focus, area in UNECA is also just, assisting the team because we have a plan to establish the African Cybersecurity Center in Togo, Lomé. So I'm one of the key team under the establishment phase of this cybersecurity center in Lome, Togo. So that is really a good opportunity for me to explore the field of cybersecurity actually. So my view regarding this sort of seminar is, so it's a wonderful initiative, because cybersecurity is really a very issue recently that as I try to just mention at the very beginning, because when we're talking about just transacting information, we should be really protected, and we should be to certain level, have the confidence and to do whatsoever things that we need to access data, or just transact information, or just transact our monies online. So to do that, I think, as to me, we have to just clearly understand the very framework of a cybersecurity. So there are essential components that has to be incorporated, and that has to be really considered as a very fundamental pillars of the cybersecurity center. So these are, for me, the very fundamental things that we should be always in mind. So the previous speaker tried to just mention different issues regarding cybersecurity. So what I'm going to do is just making a kind of framework, so as to understand the very concept of cybersecurity by putting a kind of framework. So we need to have really a kind of 5 components. A sort of integral part of a cybersecurity framework. So the first one is we need to have really a kind of component that we should implement to identify the assets or the data that we need to protect. So we have data on transit, we have data under process, and we have data at rest. So these things should be really identified clearly, so as to just protect the asset that we have. Not only the data, but we have to have really a kind of a strategy in identifying what sort of devices, what sort of infrastructure, and what sort of cloud resources that we should protect, and we should get really a kind of security mechanism for all this important assets. So the first essential component for every cybersecurity framework is therefore identifying what we are going to just protect. That is a very fundamental component. The second one is we have to have a kind of a strategy so as to just put in place a kind of protection mechanism. How we are going to secure our data, how we are going to just protect our assets, how we are going to protect the infrastructure that we have, should be really the very important ingredient and the very important component of the cybersecurity framework. So the third important component is the detection strategy. We need to have a kind of detection strategy, okay? So that we have to just put in place different detection mechanism as a very fundamental and as a very important component of the cybersecurity framework. So the third ingredient that I believe is important is a detection mechanism component should be always there. So the other one is the responding mechanism. So we need to have a kind of responding mechanism. Once a brute happens to our resources, our assets, our infrastructure, so we need to have a kind of responding mechanism, how we are going to respond. So there are different laws, security policies should be in place, so that the different attacks could be really responded accordingly, should be really handled in the full fundamental component of a cybersecurity framework. And the last essential component has to be really a kind of recovery mechanism. So brutes happens, different threats are there. So once any type of attack is really happening to our system, so that our data or our assets, so we need to have a kind of recovery mechanism. We should recover back. So that what are our recovery mechanisms? So what are the tools that we should put, so that the things that dramatically change due to the brute attack would be really recovered back, so that our system, our infrastructure, our data will be put in place. So these are the 5 fundamental components that we should always bear in mind while we are really talking about cybersecurity. So basically, based on this, a kind of framework or a kind of just collaboration strategy or a kind of partnership synergies among different stakeholders could be put in place. So the very important things that I want to emphasize here is what we are going to do at the UN ECA level, so as to just incorporate all these fundamental cybersecurity components. So at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, we are doing lots of things, and then we have lots of initiative in supporting the member state countries in different perspectives. For example, we have a kind of concise guideline and rule in human capital capacity building and infrastructure capacity building strategies. So the UN ECA is really helping the member states so as to just capacitate the member state in terms of building the capacity of experts, the capacity of people, and then even sometimes building the capacity of the member state infrastructure, so that those member state countries would be in a right position so as to just grasp and use sort of protection mechanism as a cybersecurity means. So the other thing that we are doing at UN ECA is providing policy guidelines and recommendations. So we have different policy guidelines and recommendation stipulated under the Innovation and Technology Division in the UN ECA office, so that we are providing these policy guidelines and recommendations for the member state countries, so that they could really apply those guidelines and recommendation, so that they will be really to the forefront in order to just apply different cybersecurity mechanism in order to just protect all their assets and resources. So the other things that we are doing is awareing the member state countries at the UN ECA level. We have created 2 conventions. The first one is the Malabo Convention, and we recently developed a Lome Convention. I think last May we have an international conference on the cybersecurity issues in Lome, Togo. So during that time, we ratified a kind of cybersecurity roles, policies, and recommendations, so that as a very fundamental stakeholder, as a very prime stakeholder of the continent, UNECA is really providing support to aware member states in order to just ratify the 2 conventions specifically made for the cybersecurity issues, and supporting cybersecurity activities, cybersecurity initiatives throughout the African continent is also the things that we are doing at the UNECA or at the UN ECA Technology and Innovation section. And we are also just supporting different seminars, workshop, and discussion forums, which are really aiming to foster and to aware citizens of the continent in the areas of cybersecurity. An example, if you take last month, we had a conference in Malawi, and then during that conference, cybersecurity was really one of the issue which was really raised as a side event supported by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, so as to make really the issue as a very important and very fundamental thing that every African country should rely on and consider as a very fundamental component of their ICT policy. So these are some of the things that I have for just inciting the discussions that you put forward for this wonderful seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Daraja. I appreciate that. So you all have given your perspective. We have 2 more people. I don't think they're here. If we have the other 2 panelists show up, please let me know. Dr. Amadou Ba and Mr. Wandosen Dejene, if you guys are here. just speak up, or someone else see them, let me know. I'm just going to proceed with what we have. So you each have given us a perspective about what you see as a framework, what you see as a synergy. You have each articulated who you perceive to be the stakeholders. Like everybody has a stake in this cybersecurity. So if I have my wish at the end of this session, we've done half the time, 30 minutes. We have another 30 minutes remaining. In the remaining 30 minutes, if I have my wish, would be to have on my scratch note that here is the framework I want to take. So if you can help me, you each heard each other. If you can help me piggyback on what somebody else has said, I'm going to go in a reverse order. Dr. Dean started, so I'm going to make Dr. Dean the last one. Dr. Dereje ended, I'm going to make Dr. Dereje first. So I'm going to go in reverse order. So you heard what everybody has said. So if you can see what they have said, and from what you said, what direction should this framework take? So if we get a chance to come back one more time, is that maybe we can suggest something. Maybe too ambitious to do that. But I want to go back to you, Dr. Dereje. You've heard the other three panelists talk about Dr. Dean, Dr. Hailu Al, as well as Dr. Stefanos talk about their part, and you talked about the Africa level and how the ECA is working. And what framework do you think would be, you talked about the capacity aspect. What is your take? How can we come together, these diverse stakeholders that need to come together, not just at the national level? We're thinking about Africa, we're thinking about the world. Where do we start? I think Dr. Dean started us in the keynote, some suggestions. What is your take when it comes to framework, and what do you suggest? Dr. Dereje.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I think my reflection on this is really a very short and then clear. So as I mentioned, we have really 5 important components as a very fundamental cybersecurity framework, so that for each of the fundamental components, there will be different stakeholders, that are going to be just, involved. So that the most important thing that we should do is, facilitating a kind of platform, and then just, bringing all the stakeholders in the same page, so that all the important components of, the cybersecurity framework could be really addressed by those stakeholders. So the most important thing that we should do is primarily setting up a kind of platform to bring all of the involving key stakeholders and primary stakeholders in cybersecurity arena. Just there might be from the local institutions or institution or similar institution, or from the continent and worldwide. So let's just make a kind of, or arrange or put in place a kind of platform that will bring all the involving stakeholders and the key players of the cybersecurity issues all over the world. Okay, that is really my short perspective regarding the questions that you raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dereje. Dr. Stefanos, what is your take? Dr. Stefanos, can you hear me? Do we have Dr. Stefanos? Maybe he got disconnected. I don't see him. Okay, Dr. Al, we're going to come to you. What is your take? What do you advise us?
I think one of the primary initial activity probably that I suggest would be is to identify whether it's ISO standards or NIST standard. We need to have a policy and a standard working framework that needs to be established that sets the guidelines, how the asset protections, the incident management practice needs to be handled, and all associated cybersecurity requirements needs to be performed. So that's the critical one, is really to have a policy and a standard adapting the existing ISO or NIST standards. That drives, I think, all the activities that we need to perform. From there, each of those defined standards, whether it's asset management, incident management, needs to clearly define what are the processes and procedures that needs to be applied to fulfill that policy requirements. So the initial activity really needs to have the established set rules, which is a policy and standards.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rao. Let me come to you, Dr. Dean. I know you talked about those two, the one Dr. Al just mentioned as well. After hearing what everyone has to say, what do you think, Dr. Dean? How do you advise us?
So I'm hearing things that I agree with. I agree with everybody. But I would start by trying to identify the role that the Ethiopian Cybersecurity Association wants to play. And it sounds to me like you want to play a leadership role. So, and identify, where you fit in that and what your goals are. I think that's going to be key. If it's just a technical forum, then, that's fine. It's just like a lot of others. But if you want to play a leadership role, then I think you need to identify, what is it that you want to do? The second, and I'm assuming that you want to play a leadership role, the second part would be to really develop a strategic paper. And that would perhaps include, for example, adopting NIST or ISO, and how are you going to proceed, and customizing that to Ethiopian problems, and perhaps identifying priorities there. For example, let's say it was the banking sector or the power infrastructure or whatever. I think that, and maybe, or education. And I like the term you had, the gap, right, which is government, academia, and private industry. How are you going to engage them, right? So I think that's going to be key. It's one thing for you to say that you want to do that. It's another thing to do it. And so where do you develop the moral authority to be able to accomplish that? How do you do it? Who are the players? So it's and so a lot of that is the really hard part of that, I think, is building a consensus. How do you get these players to agree in a strategy, and to use that, to basically develop some credibility and authority, and that's a challenge. If you look at the Internet Engineering Task Force, it's probably maybe one of the most powerful organizations in the world. They shape a lot of things. And that's done by a collective process of people who basically have agreed to sit down and work it out. And so they've managed to do that. Now, I'm thinking that the ECySA could do something similar, which is, basically get buy-in from collaborators who would say, yeah, we want to work together, and we'll build this framework, set of agreements, of standards, practices, frameworks. That's a complicated problem. It's unfortunately, looks more like a management problem than a technical problem. Like, how do you get people to collaborate? Well, that's a management problem, and we're technologists for the most part. So, I think it's a significant challenge. I think that technical people are capable of doing that. And if you take a lead role, if you establish a framework, if you establish a strategy, and you have a consensus of partners, then I think you have the capability of providing that leadership that I think you want to have.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dean. I see Dr. Stefanos in the house. But to you, same question, Dr. Stefanos. We've heard what everybody is sharing and their perspective about synergy, about the stakeholders, and about the framework. So what is the takeaway? What is the framework we come under? How do we at the association, Ethiopian Cybersecurity Association, go forward? I think Dr. Dean articulated 3-4 items, which I'm going to summarize in a little bit. But from your perspective, Dr. Stefanos, if you can chime in and tell us what you heard from everyone else, where do you think the association and the framework should be heading to?
For me, this association needs to work very closely to the governing body of the country. And, I know we're not used to associations in this country. For the last 15 years I've been here, we're trying to do several attempts, but the freedom wasn't there. So right now what I recommend, ECySA is the governing body in this country. So to work with them and to develop that framework. Because framework should be national based, not local or enterprise or a single entity. And once, at least the government side get that framework, private will follow. So for me, with Dr. Brano, we went to ECySA, we talked to them, we're still working with them, and so how we can come up and then have one data or one network for the nation. So if we can do that, I think this association can help greatly using the resources that it has, and then work with the governing body so that way it's useful, or it becomes like a mandate for every organization or e-government or whatever we're trying to do. So we have a framework to work with. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Dr. Stefanos. So looking at the clock, I have 15 minutes to close this session. So I wanted to have 3 5-minute buckets. The first 5 minutes, I wanted to be able to go ask you, the 5 of you, the panelists, to just go randomly in whatever order you want and comment about the summary I'm going to give, one. The second 5 minutes, I wanted to be able to give for the audience to put your questions. If you put them in the chat, that would be really nice. So we can use that for questions. The last 5 minutes, I want to give the panelists 1 minute each for a closing statement. So what I'm hearing here is, Dr. Brano, when we come back after closing this session, you better get ready to answer this. So there's a challenge, it seems to me. Who are you? The Ethiopian Cybersecurity Association. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be a manager? What role do you want to take? So there's a challenge there. So you guys can comment what you think. I think Dr. Dean articulated saying it looks like you wanted to be in the leadership. Maybe so. I wanted to hear from you guys where you think the association should go. So that's one. So what role does the association want to play? What do you guys think before we get to the questions? And Dr. Brano comes back later on to talk to us. And then there is a suggestion from Dr. Dean. I think Dr. Al alluded that too. He's also, Dr. Al is the Research and Development Group Chair. There should be a strategy paper. So that's a suggestion that was put out. So should we write a strategy paper? There's also a suggestion that we should work along with the governing body, ECySA or somebody, to develop this thing together. And there's a mention about the stakeholders, the gap. You should really invoke the government, the academia, and the private industries to come together, and somehow magically you have to form consensus. So how do you guys suggest we do this. So you have the 5 minutes for the 5 of you, however you want to go. Anyone else would like to lead us here? Everybody's muted. So 5 of you, Dr. Dean, Dr. Dereje, Dr. Al, Dr. Stefanos. So which as a mandate for the association, ECySA, Ethiopian Cybersecurity Association, what do you think it should do? We will have Dr. Branu later on respond, but what do you think the role should be? What's the identity? What path do we take? The strategy paper, and then the gap, and then the consensus, the participation with ECySA. What do you guys suggest? In the meantime, I would like to encourage the audience to put your questions in the chat line, please. Dr. Dean, please.
Yeah, so, I would start by identifying the contributors. So, for example, I didn't see anybody here, maybe I missed, but we don't have major contributors here from government. So who in government would be the right people to participate here? And I think that for you to have legitimacy, I think that you need to have a government player who at least sanctions this organization as a player, as a leader. I think that's going to be a critical component. And then I think that there needs to be, sort of a framework, a consistency. So you're going to meet weekly, monthly, quarterly. I think that there needs to be some structure there in terms of, a set of meetings and agendas and some goals, so that's really part of the strategy. But I believe that you get the right people in the right place at the right time, I think is really how to proceed. And then developing priorities. And I think the priorities will be, if you have as priorities things that people care about, they'll come. So I participated in the standards community for quite a while. And industry, for example, if industry sees that they have a vested interest, they'll show up. And if government sees they have a vested interest, they show up. And academia will show up if you let them talk. So, my sense is that, if it's like organizing a party, if you invite the right people and you have a good agenda, you'll have a great party. And so I think that this is an organizational problem. At this stage, I think it's key. I don't think anybody here disagrees that this is a crucial national priority for Ethiopia. The question is, how do we get started? So, it's a very complex technical problem, but the near-term issue is a complex social management problem, which is how to get people together. And so let me stop there and let somebody else speak.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, just to add Dr. Dean's comments, definitely we need to get some active participations from the government institutions. We believe they own, at least for now, the cybersecurity domain in our country. That's the most difficult part. We've been, at least those of us that have been outside of the country, trying to get engaged and participate and develop this, what we're discussing in the last few years. So it's been very difficult to break through. So one of the challenge, I think, is, I don't know how, we need to get their buy-in and get their active participations in this effort. That's the breakthrough that we need. The rest of it is doable once we get the active participations of all key participants. the actual work of developing the strategy, the policies, the working structures will be much easier. It's just the difficulty is getting everybody on the same page to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rob. Wants to go next?
May I come in?
Yes, Dr. Dereja, please.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I think as an association, the first and the most important thing is, identifying the key and primary stakeholders who are involving in cybersecurity issues, areas in the country, and then involving all the stakeholders, either it can be a government organization, a private organization, civil society, or whatsoever. So involving all the stakeholders in the making should be the important, activities of the association. So the second important thing there is the association should clearly know the privilege and the mandates given by the Ethiopian law, because there are other similar associations which are really established for the sake of, facilitating different activities, basically based on different issues, so that the association should clearly know the privilege and then the rights given to the association, and then in line with that, working as an interface between all the stakeholders, so as to just make things easier, and then just go ahead and progress. So that is my view.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dereja. Dr. Stefanos, would you care to comment?
Okay. In addition to what's been said, I also recommend the association to work with Ethio Telecom. When we take ECySA from a governing body perspective, yes, we got ECySA. And from a service provider perspective, we need also Ethio Telecom to be more sensitive to security, to be able to provide a secured layer as opposed to, just VPN or dark fiber or whatever is doing right now. And because from a practical perspective, enterprise or organization have no control over from the service provider. So if I'm connected with a bank, if I'm connected with the financial institute, and then those guys not protected, there's a problem. And so I strongly also recommend the association to bring Ethio Telecom with ECySA and other governing bodies to be able to provide a secure environment.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. So I have a couple of comments from the audience. I'm going to read those in the order I see them here. There's a comment here from Nabiyu that says it would be beneficiary if this association provides guidelines, training, coaching, and mentoring for any entity in Ethiopia who are ready to adopt cybersecurity. That's one comment. Faris says it would be very useful, at least if ECySA and Mint were present. As you know, we have a couple of people from ECySA that participated. One of the panelists, even though the mic didn't work, he was there, and unfortunately, our keynote speaker was not able to come. But I think Dr. Stefanos earlier mentioned this association is endorsed by ECySA. They have Dr. Brhanu can talk about it later, but just to mention that. There's also another comment that says a standard would be good, such as PCI DSS. This is the credit card payment platform. Are global standards if we need Ethiopian businesses to be involved in global competition. Should we recommend local business to accommodate and apply the international framework? I think there's a question from Dr. Asrat. What strategy, models, or approach do we need to nurture the local talent. What any suggestions about nurturing and developing local talent? I think Dr. Dereje was talking about building capacity. I think do you guys suggest anything in those regards? Products like software solution product as one of the key national security risks is, so any suggestions in those regards? Those are the comments made. Anyone would like to provide feedback or anything you guys want to say from the audience comments?
Did you ask from audience or what?
No, I'm asking the panelists if.
So let me go ahead and I'll go
I'm
ahead and
asking the
start.
audience to just put your questions in the chat. Yes, please, Dr. Dean, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard two questions there. One is, talking about standardization of products or recommendations of products and such. And when I mentioned the NIST protocol, the NIST framework, a lot of people have organized. For example, the SANS organization, SANS, is one of the leaders in the technology area, and they basically partner with NIST. And there are a host of, for example, they've come up with the critical controls for network security, and a whole host of products have come up, to support that. And people, once you establish a framework like that, and then people start, vendors start building tools that are consistent with that. And there's a whole family of software products out there, security products that you can buy that fit the framework. So that's one real advantage of having a framework. And then you, because if you start buying tools and software for solutions, if you can have different suites of tools, they may not be compatible, they may not complement each other. So that's key. And then the second point was with regard to how to build expertise and training and supporting that. And that's a huge challenge. But I think if you think in the context of the ECA, I think, for example, perhaps sponsoring conferences, particularly focused on educational stuff, and perhaps a way to engage students so that they get they can publish papers. They can get rewarded and recognized. There could be scholarships. Those are the things that will motivate students and institutions to participate. So I'll stop at that.
Thank you. Thank you. We're coming to the top of the hour, so I'm going to invite each of you in the order you introduced yourself at the beginning to do your closing remarks. Or if you want to comment on what the audience have said, you're welcome to do that as well. I'm going to start with Dr. Al and then go to Dr. Stefanos and then Dr. Dereje and then Dr. Dean in that order. Dr. Al, a closing remark, please.
Yes, I think this is one of the good organization that we started. This is a beginning. We need to work on all the areas that we just discussed, getting engaged with all stakeholders and participants. It's an ongoing exercise. Cybersecurity is a continuous challenging environment that we need to address collectively.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Stefanos.
Yeah, I think this is a good start too, and I hope everybody will be willing, especially from the government side, to work together and to come up a common strategy, framework, synergy, and also for the young and newcomers of cybersecurity, I want them to think or to start from layer 1. They don't have to wait until layer 7. And thank you all for participating. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Daraje? Dr. Daraje, are you in the house? Maybe Dr. Daraje is exited. Dr. Dean? Closing remarks?
Yes. I just want to say that this is a great start. I think that you had a good agenda. I think there's a lot of agreement about things that need to happen. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm about bringing cybersecurity to Ethiopia. You know, I feel like there's a lot more to do, but you know, you can be overwhelmed by what it is you need to do, but you should be proud that you've had a good start. And you know, I think the issues that we talked about in terms of developing a strategy and adopting a framework, you know, it seems like there's a consensus on that. I think that now you just need to build on those pieces.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all for your participation. I think there's one more comment that came in. I think there's a comment that we need to build these different pieces with ECySA, with this association, the Cybersecurity Association, with the IT audit, IS Audit Association. Different elements are popping up, and creating that synergy and that participation is important. So as we close today, I wanted to invite Dr. Burhanu, if you can hear me, if you can unmute, signaling you can hear me, that would be appropriate to ask you to say a few words before we do the concluding of this session, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Solomon. I have no enough words to thank the panelists, the keynote speaker, Professor Dean, the participants. I cannot add more than what you have said, but what I can say is the Ethiopian Cybersecurity Association has taken the challenging task of providing a collaborative platform, coordinating all stakeholders to come together to play key roles in the cybersecurity and the digital transformation process in Ethiopia. The association would be as strong as its members, as strong as the supporters, but also will be strong if we are staying an independent professional association, coordinating government, business, the civil society, and the academia. What has been discussed today is the beginning. ECySA is 8 months baby, an infant, and we feel that we have accomplished a lot in this short period of time. One of it is the successful webinar what we have today. It is really beyond the expectation, having more than 100 participants within this short period of time and with a short notice. All what we say is thank you for the organizers, thank you for the participants. Thank you. ECySA was also invited as a keynote speaker. Unfortunately, the general director has an urgent meeting where he also chairs a meeting. But professionals, experts, employees of ECySA were also participating. From the Ministry of Innovation and Technology, some experts were also participating. From business, from academia, there were many participants from Ethiopia, from Germany, from UK, Finland, Australia, and mainly from the USA. So this is the webinar, the conference we planned to organize as a test for us, how we can bring people together to discuss and to exchange the knowledge, experiences, best practices, and also join us to organize the biggest conference, what we are planning to have early 2023. Thank you very much. That's what I can say. The time allocated is also, we are done with it. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Brhanu, for the message. Yes, as Dr. Brhanu alluded, there is a conference in person. We think we'll maybe able to add hybrid as well in early 2023. So we would welcome all of you for that. Thank you, panelists, for the message you've given us, the mandate you have provided for something to chew on about the leadership role and the other synergies that you guys talked about. I'll be remiss if I don't appreciate the organizing committee. It's in the website, but I wanted to mention Sosina Tafari, marketing, media, and promotion, for all the work that she has done. Thank you so much. Stage manager, Baruhu, thank you for your work and managing this process and assisting us. Jay, he's all everything that has been done, and he led the first panel moderating. Dr. Brhanu for leading us and for starting this. So we appreciate all of you for being here, especially the participants who made this happen. As Dr. Brhanu mentioned, over 100 people at some point simultaneously joined. This we like to appreciate all of you. And with that, I'd like to conclude the 2022 August 18 virtual conference of ECySA concluded. And thank you. We'll provide the link and the material for those who need. I think as Jay mentioned, there's some recording that we can share as well. Please look at the website. The website has been provided for becoming membership, and for further inquiry, we have provided some email addresses. Please do that and follow up. Thank you again. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening and a good day for those of you on the East.
Thank you very much for everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you for everybody.
All right,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.